September 6, 2023. Exactly 18 years after his father died, Cristiano Ronaldo stood at a cemetery in Madeira, Portugal, staring at a gravestone he hadn't visited in almost 2 decades. His hands were shaking. His mother stood beside him, waiting. And what Cristiano said to his father that day, what he confessed after 18 years of silence, broke everyone who heard it. This is the story of a son who couldn't forgive, a father who never knew, and the moment. Cristiano Ronaldo is known for many things. 5 Ballon d'Or awards. Over 850 career goals. Unmatched dedication. Ruthless discipline. But there's something most people don't know about him. Something he's hidden from the world for 18 years. Cristiano has never visited his father's grave. Not once. Not on the anniversary of his death. Not on Father's Day. Not even when he came back to Madeira to visit family. He would fly to Portugal, spend time with his mother and siblings, and leave without ever going to that cemetery. His family never pushed him. They understood. Because the relationship between Cristiano Ronaldo and his father José Diniz Aveiro was complicated, painful, and unresolved, José Diniz Aveiro died on September 6, 2005. He was only 52 years old. Liver cirrhosis caused by decades of alcoholism. Cristiano was 20 years old at the time, playing for Manchester United, at the beginning of what would become one of the greatest careers in football history. When he got the call that his father was dying, Cristiano flew from England to Portugal immediately. But he arrived too late. His father died before he could say goodbye. Before they could have one final conversation. Before Cristiano could tell him all the things he'd been holding inside since childhood. At the funeral, everyone noticed something strange. Cristiano didn't cry. His mother Dolores sobbed openly. His sisters Elma and Claudia were destroyed. His brother Hugo couldn't even stand without support. Emotionless. People thought he was being strong. Being the man of the family. But the truth was something darker. Cristiano wasn't sad his father was dead. Part of him was relieved. And that feeling, that terrible relief mixed with guilt, would haunt him for the next 18 years. You see, José Diniz Aveiro was not a bad man. But he was a sick man. An addict. And his addiction destroyed his family in ways that trophies and money could never fix. Cristiano grew up watching his father come home drunk. Watching his mother cry. Watching his siblings try to hide from the yelling. Cristiano was the youngest of 4 children, and by the time he was old enough to understand what was happening, the damage was already done. His father's alcoholism had created a chaos that young Cristiano escaped through football. Every time his father drank, Cristiano would grab a ball and disappear to the streets. Football became his refuge. His therapy. His way of not being home. As Cristiano got older and his talent became obvious, his relationship with his father grew more strained. José was proud of his son, but he was also jealous. Here was this kid, barely a teenager, getting opportunities José never had. Getting attention. Getting hope. And José, drowning in his own failures and alcohol, couldn't handle it. He would say cruel things. You think you're special? You'll end up like me. Nobody from Madeira makes it. Or worse, he'd show up drunk to Cristiano's youth matches and embarrass him in front of coaches and scouts. Cristiano learned to not tell his father when he had games. It was easier that way. When Cristiano left Madeira at age 12 to join Sporting Lisbon's academy, it wasn't just about football. It was about escape. Getting away from the poverty, yes. But also getting away from his father. And that guilt, the guilt of being relieved to leave, the guilt of choosing football over family. It followed him through every trophy, every goal, every moment of glory. Because how do you celebrate success when part of you knows your father never saw you truly win? How do you feel proud when you never gave your father a chance to be proud? In 2005, when José died, Cristiano was just starting to become Cristiano Ronaldo. He'd signed with Manchester United 2 years earlier. He was talented but still raw, still developing, still trying to prove himself. And when his father died, Cristiano made a decision. He decided that he would never be weak like his father. Never be controlled by addiction or emotion or anything. He would be strong. Always strong. So strong that nothing could break him. And for 18 years, it worked. Cristiano became the most disciplined athlete in the world. He became a machine. Untouchable. Perfect. But machines don't feel. And Cristiano hadn't truly felt anything about his father in almost 2 decades. Until September 2023. When Dolores, his mother, finally said the words that changed everything. August 2023. Cristiano was visiting his mother in Madeira. He did this a few times a year, brought the kids, spent time with family. It was a rare moment of peace in his chaotic life. One evening, Dolores asked him to sit down. She was 68 years old now, still strong but showing her age. She looked at her son with those eyes that had seen everything, survived everything, and she said, "Cristiano." Cristiano immediately tensed. "Mama, not this again." But Dolores held up her hand. "No. You're going to listen. I've given you 18 years. 18 years to process. To heal. To figure out how you feel. But it's been long enough. You need to visit his grave." Cristiano stood up, ready to leave the room. "I don't need to do anything. He's dead. It doesn't matter anymore." Dolores' voice became steel. "It matters to me. Sit down." Cristiano sat. His mother had a way of commanding him that no coach, no manager, no opponent ever could. Dolores continued, her voice softer now. "Cristiano, I know what your father did to us. I was there. I lived it. I suffered more than any of you because I was his wife. I had to watch the man I loved destroy himself and hurt the people I loved most. But he was still your father. And you carrying this hate, this anger, this refusal to even acknowledge where he's buried, it's not hurting him." Cristiano sat. His mother had a way of commanding him that no coach, no manager, no opponent ever could. Dolores continued, her voice softer now. "Cristiano, I know what your father did to us. I was there. I lived it. I suffered more than any of you because I was his wife. I had to watch the man I loved destroy himself and hurt the people I loved most. But he was still your father. And you carrying this hate, this anger, this refusal to even acknowledge where he's buried, it's not hurting him." Cristiano shook his head. "I'm fine, Mama. I don't think about him." Dolores laughed, but it was sad. "You don't think about him? Cristiano, everything you do is because of him. You train harder than anyone because you never want to be weak like he was. You never drink because you're terrified of becoming him. You're obsessed with perfection because you saw what imperfection did to our family. He controls you more now than he ever did when he was alive." Those words hit Cristiano like a punch. He wanted to argue but he couldn't. Because she was right. Every decision he made, every sacrifice, every moment of discipline, it was all running from his father's ghost. Dolores reached out and took her son's hand. September 6th is in 2 weeks. 18 years exactly since he died. I want you to come with me to the cemetery. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel anything. Just come. Stand there. Acknowledge that he existed. That he was Father. Can you do that for me? Cristiano wanted to say no. Every fiber of his being wanted to refuse. But he looked at his mother, this woman who had raised 4 kids alone, who had worked cleaning houses and hotels to feed them, who had never complained, never given up, never stopped loving him even when he was impossible to love. And he couldn't say no to her. "Okay, Mama. I'll go. But I'm not making any promises about what I'll do there." The next 2 weeks were torture for Cristiano. He tried to focus on training, on his kids, on anything else. But his mind kept drifting to that cemetery, to that grave he'd never seen. What would it even look like? Was it nice? Did people maintain it? Did his mother visit regularly? He realized he knew nothing about where his father was buried. He'd deliberately avoided knowing. But now, he couldn't stop wondering. He called his sister Katia one night. "Have you been to the grave?" There was a pause. "Of course, Cristiano. We all have. Many times. Everyone except you." The judgment in her voice was clear. Cristiano felt defensive. "I had reasons." Katia sighed. "We all had reasons, Mano. But we went anyway. Because he was our father. Flawed, broken, but ours. You're the only one who couldn't let it go." Cristiano hung up feeling worse than before. He called his brother Hugo. "Tell me honestly. Do you forgive him? For everything?" Hugo was quiet for a long time. "I don't know if forgive is the right word. But I accept it. He was sick, Cristiano. Addiction is a disease. He didn't choose to be an alcoholic any more than you chose to be a football genius. It just was. And he tried, in his way. He failed, but he tried." Those conversations stayed with Cristiano. He started thinking about his father differently. Not as the monster he'd built up in his mind, but as a man. A flawed, struggling, sick man who never got the help he needed. And slowly, against his will, Cristiano started to feel something he hadn't felt in 18 years. Curiosity. He wanted to see the grave. Not for closure. Not for healing. But just to see. To make it real. Because for 18 years, his father's death had been abstract. Avoiding the grave meant avoiding the reality. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop avoiding. September 6, 2023 arrived. Cristiano woke up in his childhood home in Madeira feeling sick to his stomach. His mother was already awake, dressed in black, waiting. She didn't say anything. Just looked at him. They got in the car. The drive to the cemetery took 20 minutes but felt like hours. Neither of them spoke. What was there to say? When they pulled up to the cemetery gates, Cristiano almost told the driver to turn around. But his mother's hand found his, squeezed it gently, and he knew there was no escape now. They walked through the cemetery in silence. Dolores knew exactly where to go. She'd walked this path hundreds of times. But for Cristiano, everything was new. Strange. Surreal. And then they turned a corner, and there it was. A simple gravestone. White marble. Clean and well-maintained. And on it, the words that made everything real: José de Acevedo. 1954 to 2005, beloved father and husband. Cristiano stopped walking. He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. For 18 years, he'd avoided this moment. And now here he was. Standing in front of proof that his father was gone. Really gone. Not just absent. Not just disappointing. But dead. Forever. And what Cristiano did next, what he said, nobody expected. Cristiano stood frozen, staring at the gravestone. His mother moved to stand beside it, giving him space. Minutes passed. 5 minutes. 10. Dolores didn't rush him. She just waited. Then, finally, Cristiano took a step forward. Then another. Until he was standing right in front of the grave. He knelt down, his designer clothes touching the grass, not caring. And he started to speak. "Hi, Papa." His voice cracked on the word Papa. He hadn't called his father that in over 20 years. "It's me. Cristiano. Your son. I know it's been a while. 18 years, actually. I'm sorry about that. Or maybe I'm not sorry. I don't know. I'm confused about everything, Papa. He paused, tears starting to form. Everyone told me I should come here years ago. That I needed closure. That I needed to forgive you. But I didn't want to. Because I was so angry at you. So angry for so long that it became who I was. And I thought if I came here, if I forgave you, I'd lose that anger. And I'd lose the thing that made me strong. Dolores watched her son, tears streaming down her own face. She'd never heard Cristiano talk about his father like this. Never heard him be this vulnerable. Cristiano continued, his voice getting stronger. Do you know what I remember most about you, Papa? Not the drinking. Not the fights. Not the disappointments. I remember you taking me to the field when I was 6 years old. You kicked the ball to me and said, "Show me what you can do." And I did. I dribbled around you, scored a goal, and you laughed. Really laughed. You picked me up and spun me around and said you're going to be special, Filio. I know it, Cristiano wiped his eyes. That's the only pure memory I have of you. Everything after that got complicated. You'd be proud of me one day and cruel the next. You'd show up to my games drunk and embarrass me. You'd tell me I'd never make it, then brag to your friends about your son the footballer. I never knew which version of you I'd get. And it confused me. Made me not trust people. Made me not trust myself. He took a shaky breath. When I left for Lisbon at 12 years old, I was relieved. Relieved to get away from you. From the chaos. From never knowing if today would be a good day or a bad day. And I felt so guilty about feeling relieved. What kind of son is relieved to leave his father? But I was. And that guilt. Papa, that guilt almost destroyed me. Dolores wanted to go to him, to comfort him, but she knew this moment was between father and son. She had to let it happen. Cristiano's voice became harder now, anger creeping in. Do you know what it was like? Being a kid and being ashamed of your own father? Having to lie to my teammates about where you were? Pretending you were busy working when really you were passed out drunk somewhere? Do you know how many times I wished you were different? Wished you were like the other dads who came to games sober, who supported their kids, who didn't make everything about them. He slammed his hand on the gravestone, not hard enough to damage it but enough to make a sound. I needed you, Papa. I needed a father. Not a drunk. Not a broken man. A father. Someone to tell me I was doing okay. Someone to guide me. Someone to be proud of me. And you couldn't be that. You were too busy drowning in bottles to see that your son was drowning too. The anger poured out of him now, 18 years of suppressed rage. Do you know when you died? September 6, 2005. I was 20 years old. Playing for Manchester United. Starting to make something of myself. And you died before you could see any of it. Before you could see me win my first championship. My first Ballon d'Or. Any of it. You left before I could prove to you that I wasn't worthless. That I was special. Like you said when I was 6, Cristiano's voice broke completely. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? When they called and told me you were dying, part of me didn't want to come. Part of me thought good. Let him go. Life will be easier without him. What kind of son thinks that? What kind of person am I that I felt relief when my father died? He was sobbing now, full body sobs, the kind that come from somewhere deep and painful. I didn't cry at your funeral, Papa. Everyone thought I was being strong. But I wasn't. I was numb. Empty. Because I'd already grieved you years before. I grieved the father you never were. The father I needed. The father I deserved. So when you actually died, there was nothing left to feel. Dolores was crying silently, her hand over her mouth. She'd known her son was hurt, but she'd never understood the depth of it. Never knew he'd been carrying this much pain. Cristiano leaned his forehead against the gravestone, exhausted. For 18 years, I've been running from you. From your memory. From your mistakes. I've been so terrified of becoming you that I've become the opposite. Perfect. Disciplined. Controlled. I don't drink. I don't lose control. I don't let myself feel too much. Because feeling led you to destruction, and I refuse to be destroyed, he pulled back, looking at his father's name carved in marble. But Mama made me come here today. And standing here, looking at this stone, I realize something. You're not here, Papa. This isn't you. This is just a marker. You've been gone for 18 years. And I've been fighting a ghost. Getting angry at a memory. Refusing to forgive a man who isn't even here to know he's unforgiven. And then, Cristiano said something that changed everything. Something that made Dolores gasp. Something that broke the cycle of 18 years of hate. Cristiano wiped his face and looked up at the sky. Papa, I need to tell you something. Something I've never said out loud. Something I barely even admitted to myself. He paused, gathering courage. I forgive you. The words hung in the air. Dolores gasped softly. Cristiano continued, his voice steadier now. I forgive you for being an alcoholic. For being weak. For not being the father I needed. I forgive you because I finally understand something. You were sick. And sickness isn't a choice. He stood up, brushing grass off his knees. I've spent my whole life being angry at you for being weak. But I was a child. I didn't understand addiction. I didn't understand that you were fighting a disease you couldn't beat. I just saw you drinking and thought you loved alcohol more than us. More than me. But now, as an adult, as a father myself, I understand. You didn't choose the bottle. The bottle chose you. And you didn't have the strength to fight it. Cristiano's voice became passionate now. Do you know what I do when one of my kids makes a mistake? When they mess up? I don't stop loving them. I don't abandon them. I help them. I guide them. I show them a better way. But no one did that for you, Papa. No one helped you. No one guided you. People just judged you. Called you a drunk. A failure. A bad father. But who helped you become a good one? Who gave you the tools to fight your addiction? No one. Society just expected you to magically be better without showing you how. He knelt back down, touching the gravestone gently now. I'm sorry, Papa. I'm sorry I judged you like everyone else. I'm sorry I didn't try to understand. I'm sorry I wrote you off as a failure without seeing that you were just a man who needed help. A man who was drowning and no one threw him a rope. I'm sorry I was relieved when you died. I'm sorry I didn't visit your grave for 18 years. I'm sorry I let anger define our relationship even after you were gone. Tears were flowing freely now, but Cristiano wasn't trying to stop them. But I want you to know something. Everything I've become, every trophy I've won, every goal I've scored, it's because of you. Not in spite of you. Because of you. You taught me what I didn't want to be, and that's just as valuable as teaching me what I should be. You showed me the dangers of losing control, so I learned to be controlled. You showed me how addiction destroys families, so I never touched alcohol. You showed me what weakness looked like, so I became strong. He smiled through his tears. In a weird way, Papa, you made me. Not through good parenting. But through your struggles. Your failures. Your pain. They became my lessons. And I'm grateful for that. I wish you'd been different. I wish you'd been sober and present and proud. But you weren't. And I can either spend the rest of my life angry about what you weren't, or I can be grateful for what you inadvertently taught me. Cristiano pulled out his phone and showed the gravestone a photo. This is your grandson. Cristiano Jr. He's 13 now. He looks like you, Papa. Same eyes. Same smile. And I'm terrified of messing him up the way you messed me up. I'm terrified that my obsession with perfection will hurt him the way your addiction hurt me. But the difference is, I'm aware of it. I'm trying. I'm not running from my problems. I'm facing them. Because you taught me, through your failures, how important that is." He stood up again, pacing now. "I've been thinking a lot about legacy lately. What we leave behind. What people remember. And I realized your legacy isn't just It's not just the pain you caused. Your legacy is also me. And my siblings. We all became who we are partly because of you. Elma is strong because she had to be. Hugo learned compassion watching you struggle. Claudia became independent because she couldn't rely on you. And me? I became disciplined because I saw what lack of discipline did to you." Cristiano turned back to the gravestone. "So thank you, Papa. Thank you for the good memories, even though there weren't many. Thank you for telling me I was special when I was 6. Thank you for loving Mama, even if you didn't know how to show it properly. Thank you for giving me life, even if you couldn't always be present in it. And thank you for your struggles, because they made me who I am." He knelt one more time, placing his hand on the stone. "I'm not going to promise to visit every week. I'm not going to pretend we have a relationship now that we didn't have when you were alive. But I promise I won't avoid you anymore. I promise I won't let anger control me anymore. I promise I'll remember you as you were, a flawed man who loved his family but couldn't always show it. A sick man who needed help but never got it. A human being who made mistakes but doesn't deserve to be hated forever." Then Cristiano said something that made Dolores break down completely. "Papa, I hope wherever you are, you're at peace. I hope you're not drinking anymore. I hope you're free from the addiction that controlled you. And I hope you know that despite everything, despite all the pain and anger and complicated feelings, I loved you. I love you. And I always will. Because you're my father. And nothing changes that. Not even death. Not even 18 years of avoiding your grave. You're my father. And I'm your son. And that's enough." Cristiano stood up and walked to his mother. They hugged tightly, both crying. After a few minutes, Dolores pulled back and looked at her son. "Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone?" Cristiano nodded, wiping his face. Dolores looked at the gravestone and began to speak. "Your father knew. Everything you just said. He knew." Cristiano looked confused. "What do you mean?" Dolores took a deep breath. 3 days before he died, when he was in the hospital, he was conscious for a few hours. The doctors said it was a miracle, that he shouldn't be awake. But he was. And he asked to speak to me alone. Everyone left the room, and he told me things. Things he wanted me to tell you children after he was gone. But I couldn't. It was too painful. But now I think you need to hear it." Cristiano sat down on a bench near the grave, suddenly needing to sit. "Tell me." Dolores sat beside him. "Your father told me that day, Dolores, I'm a failure. I know it. But my biggest failure is Cristiano. Not because he's bad. Because he's too good. And I ruined it. I ruined my relationship with the one person who could have been my redemption." She continued, her voice shaking. "He said, I saw that boy dribbling a ball at 6 years old and I knew. I knew he was special. I knew he was going to do things I could never do. And instead of celebrating it, I was jealous. Jealous of my own son. What kind of father is jealous of his child?" Dolores looked at Cristiano. He understood, Filio. He understood that his addiction made him a bad father. He understood that he hurt you. But he didn't know how to stop. Was messy, barely legible, but unmistakably his. Cristiano opened it and began to read out loud, "Cristiano, my son. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. And I'm sorry I couldn't say these words to your face. I'm sorry for many things, but mostly I'm sorry for being a coward. I'm sorry I let alcohol control me instead of being the father you deserved. I watched you grow from that little boy with the ball to this young man playing for Manchester United, and every step of the way, I was proud. Even when I was drunk, even when I was cruel, even when I said things I didn't mean, I was proud. But I couldn't tell you. Because I felt I didn't deserve to be proud. How could a failure like me be proud of a success like you? I felt like I'd contaminate your achievements with my touch. So I stayed away. I pushed you away. Better for you to succeed without me than fail because of me. But I was wrong. You didn't need me to be perfect. You just needed me to be present. And I wasn't. I'm sorry, Filio. I love you. I've always loved you. And I hope one day you can forgive me. Papa. By the time Cristiano finished reading, he couldn't see the words anymore through his tears. He held the letter to his chest and sobbed. Dolores put her arm around him. Your father loved you, Cristiano. He just didn't know how to show it. And his addiction made everything complicated. But he loved you. Never doubt that. Cristiano looked at his mother through blurry eyes. Why didn't you give me this before? I could have. I don't know. I could have understood sooner. Dolores shook her head. You weren't ready. If I'd given you that letter at 20, at 25, even at 30, you would have ripped it up. You were too angry. Too hurt. You needed time to grow, to mature, to become a father yourself and understand how complicated parenthood is.